Pastor Phil being out of town and Pastor Kyle doing adult ed, for them to let me back in here to preach. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to give this another shot. Since I've been here last, which, believe it or not, is over a month ago, I've done a lot of things. And one of the things that I got to do this week was go to the NTNL Bishop's Convocation at Briarwood Retreat Center, where we've been talking, or we spent 2 days talking about emotional intelligence. If you know what that is, please let me know, because after 2 days I'm not quite sure myself. But there was lots of interesting conversation. I got to meet a lot of good people. And one of those people that I got to meet was Phil Gillespie, who is the director of the summer programs and all the programs at Briarwood. And during lunch on Tuesday, he got up to kind of give an update of what they've been doing. And he told a story that stuck with me all week. He said that the past year he had met with a woman who lived in the community surrounding Briarwood and wanted to get more involved. And so Phil brought her all the pamphlets and handouts and these things and showed it to her. He was very proud. And as she was looking through them, she said, "None of these are going to work for me." And in his head, Phil said, "We didn't design the programs for you. We designed them for us." And he had to stop himself before he said it, and luckily he did. But he went on to say how upset he was at himself for even thinking something like that we designed the programs for us and not for you. It got to him so much that what he did and announced at the end of his talk was that Briarwood this summer will offer a new summer camp for its immediate community titled New Camp. They don't have a name for it yet, but they've been thinking about it. And I've been thinking about that all week because I wish our life functioned in the same way. When we hear that people don't have the same opportunities or gifts as us, our first thought is rarely to kind of pause and restructure our lives so that they do. Instead, we kind of are separated, and there's this divide that's between us, right? Me and you, us and them, those with this stuff over there, everyone else on this side. It actually happens so much that there's a psychological term for it. It's called othering. Maybe you've heard of it. It comes up a lot in teaching and things like that. But othering is literally that thing, when that effect in our lives that makes us think us versus them. It's natural. And there's nothing going on in our country right now that I could think of that makes us feel that. I was really struggling for an image of this us versus them. And the best I could come up with was, we kind of, like in high school, there's an in crowd and an out crowd, an in crowd and an out crowd. And if you haven't seen it, this is best depicted in the American cinematic classic, Mean Girls. And if you haven't seen Mean Girls, you'll just have to take my word for it. But it's a ridiculous movie. It's silly. But for as silly as it is, it actually portrays high school clique culture in a pretty apt way. There's the in crowd and the out crowd, who's thought to be kind of lesser. And believe it or not, for the past month or so, I think Luke has been kind of getting us in that same mindset. I often just want to think of Luke now as the Mean Girls gospel, because there's an in crowd and an out crowd. And we're going to go over some of the past readings, and you're going to see what I mean. If we look at last week's gospel text, there's the widow and the unjust judge. And the widow is the in crowd, right? Because she's persistent. She's the good one after Jesus. And there's the unjust judge, who we want to say is on the outside because he has no fear of God. And before that, we have the lepers. There's the 9 lepers who don't give thanks to Jesus. So they're the out group. But the one who comes back and is gracious is the in crowd. Well done. Thank you, Jesus. And even before that, there's the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, right? Rich man bad, Lazarus good. We even missed out on that a little bit in our reading from 2 Timothy today. When they cut out the snippet in the middle, you'll notice that your reading jumps from verse 8 to 16. In the middle, Paul is listing all the people who are really helpful in his mission, and the ones who were not so helpful. He even lists them too. And I could keep going on, but you get the idea. And then we get to today's reading. We have the Pharisee and the tax collector. Now, constantly through Luke, the Pharisees are portrayed as the bad guys, the ones who sulk in the corner and kind of make fun of Jesus. And the tax collectors, even though they're kind of sketchy in biblical times, right, not so trusted, are the good guys. They're the in crowd of Jesus because they hang out. And then even in our story, the Pharisee does this othering by saying he is so glad he's not like other people. He's not like thieves, rogues, adulterers, and especially that lousy, no-good tax collector. I'm so glad I'm not like that. And we're constantly berated by this in and out, this othering. We hear this all the time. And when we read parables, we naturally want to align ourselves with one side or the other. And that's fine. That's how we're supposed to read them. But when we absorb these stories and we look at them through our lens of in and out, we view them only as black and white, with absolute rights and absolute wrongs. Good guys versus bad guys. But just like anything, the details make the story. And when we cast our lights in absolutes, you miss out on those details that are oh so important. And so here is one of those details. Because the Pharisee in our story today, even though we might cast him as being in the out crowd, Jesus never does that. He doesn't. He says, shame on you for boasting in your competence. But he never says, you're the out crowd, you're the bad guy, you're not good enough. That's what we do. And it's totally set up in contradiction to who we want to be, the tax collector, right? The good guy who falls before God and begs for mercy. They're the in crowd, and we want to admit that we're people like that. We want to be like the tax collector. We're Lutherans. We admit that we're sinners. We always say, right? We are sinners. We're like the tax collector. But if we're going to read a parable and take the role of characters, and we know that our world doesn't function in absolute rights and absolute wrongs, then we also have to realize that in any parable, we can also be the bad guys. We can also be the Pharisees. And I think that's true today, because who here honestly can say they don't like being exalted? And that they don't like getting a pat on the back? I better see no hands, because I know that's not true. I know I like it. Who doesn't like it when someone comes and tells you you're doing a good job? You're doing really great. I love it. And here's the danger question that I'm going to pose to the Lutherans. Who here believes, even if it's just a little bit, that your good works make you worth a little bit more in the eyes of God? I can feel the tension. And I was worried about saying that, but I've got just enough guilt from my dad's side of the family, that Catholic guilt, that I think I can get away with it. But I know that it's true. I know that it's true because I feel that way too. And you can even flip that and argue, what if we identify as the tax collector? Who here has ever felt that they are not worth enough in the eyes of God? I've been leading the Bible study at Pentxxiii Pub Church for the past 2 weeks. It's part of a project that I'm doing. Not my internship project, that's a different one. But we've been talking about the Bible, and my hope is that we can talk about it and how it relates to our personal stories, our narratives, how we kind of live out the Bible in our daily lives. And so we've spent the last 2 weeks going around the table and telling each other our faith stories, which no one ever does. And we've been going around, and I've probably heard 15, maybe 20 stories. And they're all so different and so amazing, but they have some common threads. At some point in all of the stories, I heard one of two things. Either I felt judged, or two, I just didn't feel welcome. I felt judged, or I just didn't feel welcome. And it's that kind of shame of being not good enough, of being lesser, that has driven people out of churches. And that's what's brought them to Kyrie. And for a lot of people, Kyrie is made up of nothing but the out crowd. To us traditional church folk, they're nothing but the out crowd. But to those who have gotten to know them, they're some of the best people you'll ever meet. The most genuine people you'll ever meet. And so after a week reflecting on this gospel and dealing with these faith stories, I think it's about time that we stop trying to cast people into certain roles, that we stop trying to divide people into groups of in and out, and realize that we are all sinners and all loved children of God, all at the same time. We think about how we divide ourselves when we draw a line in the sand, in and out. And I've come to the realization this week that wherever we draw that line, wherever it is, whenever we do it, you can always see God active on both sides. God is not exclusively for one side and against the other. And once we're able to realize that, we can stop worrying about what we're worth in the eyes of God. We can stop trying to make ourselves good enough to merit redemption or salvation, because it's God alone who can judge our hearts and our actions. It's God alone who determines our worth. Whether today we're the tax collector or the Pharisee, whether we're in or out, God has deemed us so worthy of love that He sent His Son to come down and die on a cross and suffer for us so that we might live, to forgive our sins and our shortcomings, to drive any doubt from our mind that we're not good enough. And that is the ultimate act of love. We're going to sing in a minute of the Father's love begotten, and we've been doing these songs for confirmation. And the struggle we've had for so many weeks now is, how do you make the songs from confirmation relate to the gospel text? And I had that struggle this week, but each verse, as you look, ends with the line evermore and evermore. And that has just been over and over in my ear all week. I couldn't get it out there. And I think I figured out why. And it's because it is the simplest yet most perfect depiction of the love that God has for us. It just never ends. And think about in our lives how many times we have wavered in our love and faith for God. We hop back and forth between someone who is exalted ourselves, who is too self-righteous for God, to someone who is too humble to look upon God. We constantly jump back and forth from the in crowd to the out crowd. But every time we come to church and gather in this place and experience God active in our lives, it's impossible not to feel God's undying love surrounding us. Today we're called to shift our focus away from our own insecurities and turn back into the open arms of God, the one who loves us unconditionally, the one who has already found us and claimed us, has already done this, the one who, regardless of where we are right now, where we have been or where we're going, wants more than anything to lift us up and lead us home. That is the God in whom I put all my trust, in whom I put all my faith. That is the God on whom all of my hope is founded, evermore and evermore.